Philip Nitschke is a well-known campaigner for assisted suicide and euthanasia, and back in the 1990s he carried out a number of cases of euthanasia when it was made legal in the Northern Territory of Australia for a few months. Since then he's been on the campaign trail giving information to people about how they can kill themselves, and he runs an organisation called Exit International and tours the world running seminars, giving information how people can obtain poisons from abroad, how they can supplying kits to measure the concentration and store it, and also he sells through a company he's set up nitrogen cylinders that people can use to kill themselves. So in this country it is against the law to encourage or to assist suicide, and you've got to ask the question, a man who tours the world running seminars on how people can kill themselves and supplies some of the equipment to do it, if he's not encouraging or assisting suicide, then who actually is? And so out of concern we wrote both to the Home Secretary and also to the London Metropolitan Police Commissioner to ask them to stop him coming into the country and to investigate this. Well, we had people turning up at the seminar dressed up in Grim Reaper's uniforms with face masks as well, and carrying signs saying "Care not killing," really to make the point very graphically that this man's actions will undoubtedly lead to people taking their lives. And the concern is that in Australia, where he comes from, there have been about 50 deaths associated with the drug Nembutal, which is a veterinary drug he makes available to, or gives people information so that they can import it from abroad. And about a third of these have involved people in their 20s and 30s, and very few of them have been people who have been chronically or terminally ill. And in fact, Nitschke is on public record as saying that he supports assisted suicide for those who are depressed, the bereaved elderly, and also troubled teenagers as well, and says, well, there may be some collateral damage, but he doesn't seem too concerned about that. And our concern is that we're going to read in the newspapers here about people taking their lives using either his nitrogen cylinders or alternatively imported drugs, and then it'll take that before, unfortunately, it may seem that the police get interested in it. Well, there are currently two bills being considered by British parliaments. There's Lord Falconer's bill in the House of Lords and Margo MacDonald's bill in the Scottish Parliament, and both of these attempt to legalise assisted suicide for people who are terminally ill. In addition, there are 3 court cases going through the courts at the moment, and if we were to get an unhelpful ruling with those, it could change the law in this country in a very damaging way. Currently, both assisted suicide and euthanasia are illegal in Britain, but we've seen that where the law changes in other countries or in US states, very worrying and dangerous developments inevitably follow, and we get incremental extension with more and more people being killed and more extension to more vulnerable groups. We don't want any change in the law here.
Not unexpectedly, the decision from the Chief Medical Officer was that the proposals that have been circulating now for some years to create embryos using genetic material from 3 parents was given officially the go-ahead. The next stage is it'll go before Parliament and the regulations will be established and voted on. We obviously, sadly, expected it, hoped for a miracle that they wouldn't give it the go-ahead, and now we have to do everything we possibly can to oppose it and to prevent it from going into law, which will be quite a challenge, but I hope we will find a mechanism for doing it. Well, I think we all agree, and it's good to start with something that we agree about, we all agree that we would like to see cures for diseases, but there's 2 issues here. One is that the public has to understand this is not a cure for a disease, and the second ethical issue is that not all means of curing disease are ethical. So this is not a cure for a disease insofar as what's proposed is a way to avoid a particular embryo from being born. And in fact, one of the proposals, which is probably the one that will go forward, is a process whereby you help yourself to genetic material from one healthy embryo and transplant it into another. Well, obviously, the healthy embryo's life is destroyed in the process. The transplant into the other embryo is the unnatural side of things, where you're introducing a third parent into the genome of the new embryo. And the big question marks there are, is it safe? Will it work? And you're experimenting on a child under these circumstances. And not only are you looking at will it work in the short term, but because it's being done at the very early stages of human life when the germline is established, you also have to consider what will that particular child, if it were to be successful, pass on to future generations, because this will be a new type of human being in many respects. And the question is also about, is that going to work out safely? Would that particular child only be able to have, find a husband or wife with an embryo that had been created in a similar way? If you look into the future, it goes in all directions. But I think the general consensus internationally is that it's highly unlikely to work and that it is very, very dangerous. Some research of this nature, well, it went beyond research, was undertaken in the United States, where they don't actually have an official prohibition against it. But it was stopped by the Federal Drug Agency because of the severe number of abnormalities that resulted from the procedure. It wasn't exactly the same, but the principle was very much the same. We first of all are looking at this issue that it might be very dangerous. I'm not prepared exactly to bet on it because it would be even a frivolous thing to even suggest, but I don't think it will work. We've had a debate in this country and a lot of heat and legal challenges, etc., on the issue of creating animal-human hybrids, and we're still waiting to hear what came of it, what next. I think the most important thing to underline is that this is not a cure for mitochondria disease. We should be looking for cures, but a cure is actually curing somebody who has the disease, not trying to avoid it before they're born. This is obviously not the way in the natural course of events that we are supposed to be created, but I think in the process of IVF there are lots of shadowy aspects of IVF with this third-party involvement, not creating a child with three parents, but by the process of using donor eggs or donor sperm or donated embryos. There's a lot of muddling up of the traditional family already, but I think here the major concern has to be about the scientific nature of what's being planned here, because it is highly risky, and it's the first time in my experience, except obviously it did arise a bit with the animal-human hybrids. It's the first time that we've entered into alliances internationally with groups of very, very big thinkers from scientific backgrounds who don't have any Christian tradition behind them at all, very secular opponents. Opposition to this proposal of the HFEA is echoing around the world. There are 40 countries who have expressed their objection to it, and many of them, in many international conventions, it's already prohibited. So it's got to be underlined that the United Kingdom thinks it's leading the world. In actual fact, the world is looking at horror at the United Kingdom, wondering whether they've completely lost their mind. I think it's very clearly a time for deep prayer, and I would also suggest to those who are concerned about this to take some time to really understand what's going on, so that when you enter into discussion with people, you don't get sold this idea, but we're trying to save a child from a terrible condition, we're doing everything to help them, to unpack what's really being said here. Sometimes the science is complicated, and in fact this has been sold to the public as mitochondria replacement, so most of the public doesn't understand what that means. I certainly say to people, never ever describe it in any other term but three-parent embryo, and talk about the risks to the child, the fact that it doesn't cure the disease at all, and of course that it breaks all the rules of natural law, which for the Christians, of course, is the divine law.
Hello and welcome to the Emmanuel Centre. We're here to celebrate Christian Concern's 5th birthday. This evening we're going to be hearing from Pastor Ade Umuba, Bishop Michael Nazar Ali and Andrea Williams, and also we'll be hearing from some of the Christian Legal Centre clients.
He is jealous for me, love's like a hurricane and I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us, how he loves us all. He is jealous for me, love's like a hurricane and I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And he loves us, oh how he loves us, oh how he loves us, oh how he loves. And we are his portion and he is our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If grace is an ocean, we're all sinking, and heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss, and my